G'day guys, we are back for part 2. The customer decided to go ahead, so we have done the timing chain kit, and like someone did say on part 1 in the comments, there is an upgraded kit for it. The chain is definitely way thicker and stronger than the original chain, and I think the tension has been upgraded as well. So the job's been done already. I will put some videos up of the new chain and the old chain together, and also the timing marks, the way it's set up with the new links, or with the cutted links on the new chain. And then what I'm going to do now is put the WPS 500 back in cylinder. We're going to compare it to the original one that I had in part 1, and we're going to do the same with the cam and crank correlation, and hopefully, if all goes well with Pico 7, we'll set up some viewports so we can see them compared on the same screen. So let's get to that. So it's all done, ready to go, all together, as you can see from those videos. So now what we'll do is we'll connect up the Pico, and I'll share the screen with you, and we'll see if we can get those viewports and those comparisons done. So we're connected up to the cam sensor over here and the crank sensor down there, and we've done the running test already, so I'll take you over to the screen now. Okay guys, we're here on the cam and crank correlation comparison. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the Pico 7 viewports happening the way I wanted them, and I did do another screen recording of 2 different Pico windows, but unfortunately my screen recorder actually only recorded one of the windows. So I had to do it the hard way and load both pictures in the photo editor on Windows, and this is where it's at. So as you can see, our top capture is the original one with the bad timing, and our cam trace is well advanced on both sides, and if we look below, that is the cam and crank capture we just did, and the cam trace is directly in the middle of the missing teeth. Obviously the scales are a little bit off because I didn't put the scales to be exactly the same, but clearly you can see that doesn't matter whether it's the rising edge or the falling edge of the cam trace, it's meant to be directly in between the 2 missing teeth. And these ones, the original one was definitely not. So that proves that 100% that is completely fixed as per our known good waveform that we found in the Pico library in the first video. So let's just jump on to the InCylinder test now, and we'll see if we get the most interesting results from that one. So we are set up exactly the way we were before. We've taken out number 2 spark plug, and we've disconnected number 2 injector so we don't wash the cylinder while we're running it. So I'll start this up now and we'll get you over to the screen. Alright, let's do a little zoom exactly the same way as our original one was over here. So I'll zoom in on that. Let's get our zooming done. Okay guys, so we're here on the comparison between the original InCylinder capture and the current InCylinder capture after the repair. And if you know, apart from what you saw earlier with the actual running compression, the huge difference in running compression, the other noticeable differences are, so let's have a look at the close look at the original. And as you can see from the original, our vacuum made is about 3.2 psi, which usually equates to roughly double in inches of mercury, so somewhere around 7 inches of mercury, so very, very low. Our intake valve opens roughly around the 330 degree mark, so 30 degrees before 360. And if we go back to our current capture, we can see our vacuum now is around 11 psi, which is around 22 inches of mercury. So we have our vacuum back,
we have our intake valve opening at around 372 degrees there. So between 372 and 329 there is a huge difference, and our vacuum 11 psi to 3 psi, massive difference too. So yeah, hopefully you can see what a massive difference the intake valve opening early makes, and we can clearly see the issue before, and the issue now has been rectified. So we can print all these results properly, not in an ugly format like I've just done, and show the customer proof of repair. And I apologise about having to show you this way, but I will work out the Pico viewports shortly, and next time I do this it'll look much better on the Pico 7.
Okay, before we close this episode, guys, I just want to show you one more thing. A couple of people did ask me how the PCM actually controls this camshaft actuator, and obviously it does it with pulse width modulation. And a few people did ask me, what sort of duty cycle we're looking at idle, and does it start high and go low, or does it start low and go high? So what I have done is I've hooked up my scope meter. We're going to turn this on. Just try and get it so I don't have wires dangling around the belt. Can get it under here. Let's do it like that. So let's go to hertz. Let's choose duty cycle. Alright, just make sure we're out of the way of everything over here. That will be fine. So what this is measuring is the pulse width modulation duty cycle of the PCM, what it's commanding. So let's start this up, and now you can see how beautifully this car runs. Absolutely fantastic. Customer gave it to us with no fuel. Thank you for that. So let's go over to our scope meter and let's have a look. There you go, guys. So we've got 90% duty cycle at idle. So let's bring the revs up and see what happens. And as you can see there, as we bring up the revs, duty cycle decreases to advance the cam. So the hertz actually doesn't change, very slightly. The duty cycle does. So that's how it works, guys. It starts high, 90% duty cycle, and then as you rev it to advance the cam, it actually reduces the duty cycle. So thank you for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this all made sense to you. You might have learned something. If you did, please leave a comment, please like, please subscribe, and thank you, and see you soon.